Okay, so I want to talk about a tool that is very useful when you go to deliver your presentation, and that is the notes view. And what you want to do is kind of make some notes to yourself as far as what you're going to be talking about on each one of your slides, and that way you've got something to kind of look at and kind of remind yourself of talking about certain things. So you might have a slide that has like 5 bullet points to it, but there's those 5 things you want to talk about, but maybe there's a few other things in between that you don't really have on the slide that you're really just going to kind of talk verbally about. And to have some sort of a note system going, almost acting as like a teleprompter, will save you a lot of aggravation. Nothing worse than delivering your presentation. You're on slide number 5, blah blah blah, and then you flip over to slide number 6, and you say, "Oh, wait a minute! I forgot to tell you one thing." And you go back to slide number 5 and do that, or better yet, forgetting it all together and it being kind of an important part of your presentation. So the easiest thing is to put notes for each one of your slides. Now, how do you go about doing that? Well, down at the bottom of your screen, you will see something here called Notes. And when you click onto that, that will open up the Notes area here, all right? If you click it again, it closes it. The other way you can do it is clicking on the normal one time, and that will open it up as well, all right? And then what you do to get yourself some room, kind of pull this up like this from the border, and now you can make your notes. So, maybe starting with slide number 1, okay, you do that. There's your title slide, the first slide everybody sees. And, of course, it just has what you see here. So for you to know or to remember all that you want to talk about while you're on this particular slide, you might want to put some highlight or some key words maybe in the notes area here to kind of remind yourself of what to talk about, rather than relying on your memory. Especially when you're up in front of a bunch of people, you might get a little nervous and you forget certain things. I mean, it's very easy to do. So to make this happen, what you'll do is you'll go to this area here and you'll click onto it and you'll put your note in. Now, I would suggest that you kind of maybe put bullets in here or some sort of numbering so that you can kind of get a feel for, the next line, the next one, and so forth. So if you go back to home, you can go over here into your paragraph area, go to your maybe your number bulleting here, and you can either go with numbers or alpha or Romans, whatever you want to do. I'll just go with this one here. And you'll see number 1 come up there. You'll put your note in there, whatever it happens to be. You can be multi-lined with it, whatever. But usually what you want to do is you want to kind of keep this short, because you're going to be kind of nervous looking down there and kind of reading a long line. So kind of keep it as short as possible, but still make it so where it will remind you of things to talk about. So that's your first note, and then you can go and hit the enter key. What you might want to do too is maybe get an extra space in there. So if you hit the enter key again, it still keeps it on there. It's not like if you're doing regular bulleting and you hit the enter key a couple of times and you lose your bulleting. Here it's okay. So you put your second note in there, right? Enter, another note, whatever you want that to be, right? And that's it. And then what you do is you go to your second slide, right? And again, you go back up to here, hit your numbered bulleting, and put your notes in about this. Okay, I'm going to tell you, this will really save the day having these things. So I'll go ahead and I'll put a couple more in here. And that's it. All right. Now, after you've done all your notes, you can go ahead and you can just collapse this if you want to, turn it off, but the notes are still in there. But so you got an independent set of notes for each one of your slides. Now, as I was saying earlier, you will be able to look at those notes while you're doing your presentation, as long as you are in the presenter view. All right. But another thing to think about is that you might also want to print out a hard copy of the notes. In other words, if you've got, in this case, we've got 13 slides, print out basically your notes, and what will happen is each slide will be on its own sheet of paper, And then on the bottom half of that page will be the notes referring to that particular slide. So that makes for a great backup if, let's say, you go to do the presentation, the projector blows up, and you can't do your slideshow. Well, at least you'd be able to sit there, maybe have these sheets of paper and go, hey, here's the first slide, and kind of, read your notes, or do your ad lib or whatever you got to do, do your normal presentation, but you just won't have anything to display other than these sheets of paper that you're holding up in the air. All right, it just makes for a good backup, I think. So how would you go about doing that? Well, first of all, what you would do is you go back. So once you've got your notes in there, you go back into File. All right, you go down here to Print. All right, and then over here it says print what. And then we've got, all slides, but down here it says full page slides. Now, when you click onto that, what you're going to see is a number of other things that you can print out. Now, what we're talking about right now is doing the notes pages. So if you click onto that, what will happen is, let me just go back to the first slide here. So here's your title slide, your first slide. There's the notes that we put in there. And I'll go to the next page, and there you see the next one. So it's a nice little layout there for you. We don't have anything more to show, but if you did do all the notes on all the pages, then you'd have notes for each page. And of course, then you'd go ahead and you'd choose a printer, and then you go ahead and hit print, and it would print this out on separate sheets of paper. And let me just take a little bit of a side note here. For your audience, you might consider printing out what they call handouts. And basically, here's what the handouts look like. I'm just going to go back here to where we had the notes pages and change that to handouts and have the 3-slide handout. Now, what that does is it actually generates a page for each 3 of your slides. For every 3 slides, here's slide number 1, 2, and 3. Now, you notice that your notes are not showing up here. What's happening is it's showing the slide, and then it has an area over here where people can type it or can write in their notes. And what's great about this is that you don't have your audience sitting there making notes and having to kind of sketch out what your slide is, because it's already there. So all they have to do is just make notes over here about what you're presenting on each of the slides. Now, this makes for a great takeaway, because when they go back to their offices or whatever, they've got their notes on the entire presentation. What a great thing. So this would be the first 3 slides. There's your next 3, there's your next 3, there's your next 3, and so forth, and then that's the last one, number 13. So that is definitely something that you might want to do. I get a lot of people telling me, well, I don't want to do that because then they know what I'm going to be talking about. It's like, well, listen to yourself. Don't you want them to know what you're going to be talking about? And they say, well, it ruins the surprise. And it's like, I wouldn't get that deep with it. I think this is a good idea. I know a lot of instructors, professors, whatever, in classes, when they have their presentations, they will hand out something like this for their students to make notes on, because what better way to have them be able to take away all of the information. See, if you don't have the slide in there, they're sitting there writing down what's on the slide and then also making their notes, and they're going to get very distracted. They're not going to remember anything, right? This way, or they're not going to, get the full impact of your presentation. So doing it this way, it saves them the hassle of doing this, and all they have to do is watch you and make occasional notes, over there. So enough with that, okay? Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about this later on, but I want to just show you what is going to happen with your notes when you are actually doing the presentation and you're in what they call presenter mode. Presenter mode means that on your notebook or whatever you're presenting from, that will have kind of like a dashboard showing the slide that you're presenting, showing the upcoming slide that you'll be presenting, showing your notes and all that. But on the projector, which is basically like another screen that the audience is looking at, they're not going to see any of that. All they're going to see is just the slide. So it's a great little tool. So here's how this works. And again, We'll get into more detail on this on latter videos, but kind of watch this. So what we would do is we go into, I'm going to start with, well, it doesn't matter where I go here, but if I go over here to the slideshow, right, and you'll notice over here, so in this situation, we've got the use presenter view. So having that checked, you're going to get this this little dashboard as I was talking about. So watch what happens now. So I'll go back and I'll tell, okay, I want to start the slideshow from the beginning. So I'm going to click on to from beginning over here. And there it goes. Now what you're seeing on your screen is what the audience is seeing, okay? Now I've got 4 screens on my system here. You can't see them obviously, but I've got 4. My dashboard is actually on one of my other screens, but I wanted to show you what this looks like here, okay? Okay, now what I'm seeing, you know, if I was doing a regular presentation, what I'm seeing on my notebook isn't this. This is what they're seeing on the screen. What you're seeing, let me just get over the screen here, you can see this. I'm gonna bring it over here and so you can see this, all right? That's what you're seeing, okay? So this is your little cockpit here, right? Your dashboard. So this is the current slide that's being displayed, slide number 1, right? This is the next slide coming up, and then look at this, here's your notes, right? And you can actually make these notes a little bit bigger so you can see that, but I would say that in most cases, you probably don't want to have to bother having to scroll here, so I would probably maybe keep it whatever size just so that you can see everything. And like I said before, you're not going to have notes this long, right? You might have 6 or 7 notes that are one-liners, and that's going to fit just perfect. All right, so then what you're doing at your end, you're sitting there saying, okay, here's slide number 2, so now you're ready to do slide number 2, so now you're going to see this one appear over here. There's slide number 2, all right? Here's slide number 3 over here. There's slide number 3, slide number 4, and so forth. See, but my point is that the slides that have notes, you're going to see the notes right there. It's such a comfortable, laid-back thing to be able to have this little teleprompter on the side with your notes. Your audience has no idea. Well, they might have an idea because maybe they do presentations themselves, but they have no idea that they're not really thinking about this, right? So pretty cool. And again, on another video coming up, we'll get more into detail on this, but I just wanted to show you how your notes will show up when you're doing a presentation. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the escape key, and that'll get me out, and I'm back to here. All right, so hopefully this will help. I think everybody that does a presentation have notes. Now, if some of you are out there actually making presentations for maybe other people, maybe you're in charge of putting these things together, you can put your notes in there, but also maybe, you know, remind whoever you're making the presentation for that they can also go into that notes area and modify the notes or what have you to kind of fit perfectly with how they want to do the presentation. But that's totally up to you how you want to do that. So anyway, appreciate you watching the video. And again, we'll get more into the actual presentation in another video coming up, okay? Thanks for watching. Take care.